I dealt with bloating, heartburn, gas, and gut pain for nearly a decade, and nothing provided me with real lasting relief until I finally figured out how to heal everything from the root. And it's been 5 full years now since I healed, and I have stayed symptom free ever since. So I'm just here to share what actually worked for me in case you are dealing with the same thing. So back when I was dealing with lots of indigestion and just feeling backed up and bloated after my meals and dealing with reflux flare-ups, I was hydrating a lot. I would bring my hydro flask everywhere I went and make sure I'm always hydrated. And I would eat clean foods like protein bars, protein shakes, oatmeal, avocado toast, and things like this, especially for breakfast. And I would hydrate, especially for breakfast before I eat. And I would still feel backed up and bloated after my first meal of the day. And this really confused me because I wasn't eating any junk food. So, what was causing this? And it wasn't until I learned about cellular hydration that absolutely changed everything for me. So it's not about how much water you're drinking, it's about how much water is in your foods, okay? Because these dense, dry foods like the protein bars, the avocado toast, they have no water content in them, and they were actually pulling the hydration out of my body, leaving me dehydrated. So as soon as I started swapping out these dry, dehydrating foods in the morning for juicy, hydrating, water-rich foods like cucumber slices or celery or berries, melons, grapes, okay, things like this, then I started eliminating after my breakfast every day properly, and I wasn't feeling backed up anymore. So this was the first thing that changed everything for me and got me started in my healing journey. And it really made sense to me too, because every time we eat food that isn't water rich and hydrating, like cooked foods like pasta and toast and, oatmeal or bread, things like this, we feel the need to drink with our meals or right after our meals. Every meal you go to the restaurant, they pour your water. And this is because this food is actually dehydrating you. It's not really meant for us, okay? Me and you are water-based beings. We're 60 to 70% water, so our diet should be a reflection of who we are, okay? We need that hydration in our foods, okay? Our ancestors weren't just walking around with jugs of water all the time. They didn't have it, fully accessible like they do now. So they were getting their hydration through their foods, okay? And every food in nature is hydrating, okay? Even sweet potatoes have like 70% water in them. So this goes to show that all of these foods that we're eating, the toast, everything that's in the grocery store that can't be found in nature, like bread and, pasta and these protein bars, these healthy snacks and healthy cereals, okay? They're not from nature. So, they're dehydrating, okay, and processed, and your digestion was not designed for these type of foods, okay? Now this brings me into my next point. These dehydrating dense foods also required my body to use excess unnatural amounts of my stomach acid to fully break them down because they were so dense and dehydrating and just hard to digest. They were hard to break down. So after our whole lives, my whole life, I was eating these cooked foods and cookies and bread and pancakes and pasta and protein and bars, granola bars, things like this, these dehydrating waterless foods. This all caused my stomach acid to become weak or low, okay, because these foods didn't have enzymes in them, okay? So all these foods in nature that our digestion was made in and designed for has living digestive enzymes in them, okay? And so all these cooked foods, they didn't have enzymes in them or they didn't have hydration. And now let me talk about enzymes for a second. So enzymes pair with your stomach acid to help it break down your food efficiently so that none of it turns into undigested waste, okay? Now, because this cooked food and all these processed grocery store items, the microwave meals, the frozen meals, they didn't have enzymes because they weren't in their whole form from nature, and they weren't water rich. They required excess amounts of stomach acid to break down, and this weakened my stomach acid over time. So it couldn't break down this food efficiently because there's no enzymes helping it out. And so this caused a lot of undigested waste in my colon, in my stomach. Now, this is the reason I was feeling backed up and not eliminating after every meal and, getting these flare-ups, is because this undigested waste can ferment and turn into a gas and rise up my esophageal tube and cause this heartburn and this chest pain and even the reflux flare-ups in my throat. And it can also clog your colon, so that you're not eliminating and you're feeling very bloated and backed up. Okay, so I needed to add in more enzyme rich hydrating foods into my diet, not just breakfast. Okay, and so every time I did have cooked food, anything that didn't have water content in it, I would make sure to pair it with hydrating, water-rich, enzyme-rich foods like cucumber slices and celery sticks and bell pepper slices and green leafy lettuce, things like this, just pairing it with the meal so that my body can now have some assistance to break down this dehydrating enzymeless cooked food. Okay, now my body has the enzymes from the bell pepper or the celery and the hydration from the bell pepper or the celery to bind with that cooked food and help lubricate it and break it down effectively so that none of it turns into undigested waste, which then turns into these symptoms that we're dealing with. So that was number two. I had to just add in more of these hydrating, water-rich, enzyme-rich foods into my diet, and especially pair them anytime I had cooked food. Now, another thing that was very hard for my stomach to digest and causing me to be blocked up and backed up and experiencing reflux flare-ups was oils. Okay, even the healthy oils, the olive oils, the coconut oils, and avocado oil, stuff like this, even if they're quote unquote healthy, they are not, your body was never designed to know how to break down these overload of fats. Okay, these oils are just super, super, super concentrated, processed versions of fat in nature. Okay, like let's talk about olive oil. So you just eating one spoonful of olive oil is like you in nature eating about 35 to 40 olives in one bite. Okay, none of us will be doing that, and our digestion is not built for that. It's not built to know how to break down that overload of concentrated fat in one sitting. Okay, and like I said, me and you are water-based beings, and we both know that oil and water do not mix. Okay, so this oil also requires an excess unnatural amount of stomach acid to break down, and so this causes your stomach acid to weaken and not be as strong. So this gets tied in to your digestion and just causes fermentation and bloating because it can't be broken down effectively. Okay, it's very, very dense, it's very fatty. Okay, and it's not good for us. Okay, and this was a hard one for me because I love to put olive oil on my avocado and my salads and stuff, but as soon as I took out the oils, everything changed, and I could definitely feel a huge relief within my digestive system, and things were eliminating a lot more properly and faster. And now the last thing that changed everything for me in healing my gut and healing my digestion from the root was focusing on what state I was in emotionally and mentally while I was about to eat. Okay, because our nervous system is directly tied into our digestion. Okay, so we're either in a mostly fight or flight mode or a rest and digest mode. Okay, and a lot of us are in this fight or flight panicky mode. Okay, and the reason we're in this mode is because we're breathing up here in our chest and through our mouth, and very shallow and small, okay? And this is what we do when we're panicking, but in a more intense way, like, okay, we're breathing fast and through our mouth and through our chest, okay? And this signals to our nervous system, hey, we're not safe right now, okay? And this is what we're doing all 24/7. We've never been taught to breathe properly and, regulate our nervous system properly. And so when we're in this panicky, overthinking or worried state and not relaxed and in the present moment, this essentially puts our digestion on pause, and our nervous system sends that blood from our digestion to our limbs, our arms and legs, so that we can run, okay? Our nervous system just thinks we're not safe, okay? Think of our nervous system as just very ancient, okay? It just knows stress as stress. So it doesn't know the difference between 5,000 years ago when we had to run away from, a tiger coming out the bushes, and, now us just being stressed about some emails or work or a deadline or relationships, okay? So your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It just knows stress, okay, we gotta go, okay? So digestion gets put on pause, so we're not digesting our food properly, and we're not absorbing the nutrients from our food properly, okay? And this was a huge one for me because I used to eat in, chaotic work environments, and, around people that I couldn't fully relax around. Maybe they were just talking to me about drama and just things that weren't fully relaxing, okay? So the way to signal to your nervous system to get into this rest and digest state, to activate your digestion before you eat, so that you can absorb all your nutrients and break down your food efficiently and not just have it turn into this undigested waste, is the breath, okay? The breath is the fastest way to communicate to your nervous system that you're okay and you can be in a rest and digest state. So instead of breathing up here in our mouth and our chest and very shallow, you want to start prioritizing breathing through your nose. Okay, so you want to breathe through your nose, and you want to breathe deeper. And you want to exhale deeper, okay? A lot of us are just inhaling and we're not exhaling all the way. We're not exhaling all of this, emotions out of us, okay? So we got to be exhaling fully, okay? So also, you want to, instead of breathing through your chest, like up here, you want to be breathing through your stomach, through your belly, okay? So when you inhale through your nose, when you inhale, you want to expand your belly out, and then when you exhale, you want to contract your belly in. So you can test this by putting a hand on your chest and putting a hand on your belly and just breathing and seeing which one pops out more. And you want to prioritize breathing through your belly, okay? Now, what this does is this all signals to your nervous system that you're in a relaxed rest and digest state, but this also activates your digestion, okay? Because by using and engaging with your belly, you're engaging with a muscle called your diaphragm, and this is your primary respiratory muscle, okay? And it's in your stomach, so it's activating. By you engaging this muscle, you're strengthening this muscle, and in turn, you're strengthening your digestion. You're activating your digestion. So the stronger your diaphragm is, the stronger your digestion is. So that was the last thing that changed everything for me, is coming to the present before I eat, making sure I'm off my phone, because even just scrolling or watching TV or around people that are just not relaxed or talking about drama and stuff, this is all signaling to your nervous system that you're not in a fully relaxed, present, rest and digest state, okay? So I had to get rid of the phone, get rid of these distractions, come into the present moment, come into my five senses. What do I hear? What do I taste? Or what do I smell? What do I feel? Okay, and just pause for a moment and breathe. We can do it together right now. We're gonna expand our bellies on those inhales and contract it back in on those exhales. And we're gonna breathe deep and slow and relax our nervous system so that our digestive organs can come into balance and turn on. So we can do a quick practice right now. We'll exhale our breath and inhale through your nose and expand your belly. And exhale. And inhale, expand that belly. And exhale, bring that belly back in. And one more big inhale, expanding that belly out. And bringing it back in, exhale all the way. Okay, and just doing this for even just those couple breaths, I literally feel my nervous system just refreshed and relaxed, and that everything's okay and we can begin to digest properly. So you want to do that for like 1 to 2 minutes before you eat. And also, bonus tip is just to take a light walk after your biggest meal, instead of just being stagnant, okay, to assist your digestion in breaking down your food properly. Okay. Also, another bonus tip was, instead of drinking with or right after your meals when you do have cooked food, adding those hydrating water-rich foods, pairing that with your cooked food, this is going to hydrate you instead of having to drink that water, because the drinking with your meals or right after your meals actually dilutes your stomach acid, and we need that strong stomach acid to break down our food effectively. So quick recap on everything I did to heal my digestion from the root was I swapped my breakfast out for hydrating, juicy, water-rich fruit and foods instead of these dry, processed, dehydrating foods that were just piling more onto this undigested waste. Okay, this hydrating, juicy fruit helped prepare my digestion for the day by breaking down and lubricating any undigested gunk in my colon and get me eliminating properly. And this prevented me from feeling bloated and backed up after my first meal. Second thing I did was I started adding more of these water-rich, hydrating, enzyme-rich foods into my diet. And every time I ate cooked food, I would make sure to pair them with the cooked food instead of drinking water, so I don't dilute my stomach acid. And instead, I'm providing my body with those natural living digestive enzymes, and the hydration from the cucumber slices, bell pepper slices, so that the cooked food can be broken down effectively. I can help my stomach acid and rebuild. This also rebuilds your stomach acid when you're adding in these more digestive, enzyme-rich foods into your diet. Because if you're out in the Western world, you've been eating cooked food your whole life. Most of our diet is cooked food, and these are very enzymeless, and they've weakened our stomach acid, so now it can't break down our food effectively, and we're dealing with these undigested waste symptoms. So that was number 2, is just adding more hydrating, enzyme-rich foods into my diet, and every time I ate cooked foods, okay? And you can also look up raw vegan meals on Google, raw vegan dressings, raw vegan dips, and all of these recipes are natural whole foods, whole plants that are hydrating, and they're all enzyme rich. So I learned how to make more meals with these kind of foods, cucumber noodles, making pesto noodles, and raw vegan Alfredo cucumber noodles. Okay, everything is living and hydrating and enzyme rich, and this all strengthened my stomach acid and rebalanced it to be able to digest my food properly and not feel backed up and constipated and having these reflux flare-ups. Okay, now the third thing I did was I cut out all oils, because these oils are very dense and very hard for your stomach to break down fully, and just keeping you backed up. Even the healthy oils, very concentrated fats. So that changed everything for me, was taking out all oils and really reading the labels of any snacks that you eat and making sure that there's no canola oil, soybean oil, even olive oil, okay, because they're pretty much hidden in everything. They're in mayonnaise, they're in all these foods. So this is also why you want to learn how to make these. Go on Google and type in raw vegan dressings and dips so you can make your own mayonnaise and ranch and things like this with whole, hydrating, enzyme rich foods that are not going to block your digestion and, you know, weaken your stomach acid even more. And then the last thing I did to heal my digestion from the root was, regulating my nervous system and communicating to my nervous system through my breath that I'm okay and I'm in a place to rest and digest. Okay, this activates your digestive organs, and by engaging with that diaphragm muscle, you're activating your digestion and you're strengthening your digestion as you strengthen that muscle. So I hope these all provided you with massive value. I hope this all works for you, because this absolutely changed everything for me. I dealt with acid reflux, constipation, bloating for almost 12 years, and just implementing all of this and staying consistent with eating this way and eating more hydrating, enzyme-rich foods, and making that the priority of my diet, or the primary source of my diet. And just a little bit of cooked food. If I do have cooked food, I eat mostly steamed vegetables, some quinoa here and there. Okay, but I try to keep everything light and hydrating and enzyme rich, and to just not drink with my meals. So, like I said, I hope this provided you with massive value. My name is Practitioner Key, and I will see you guys in the next video. Happy healing, family. Cheers.